Hello and welcome to Cyberside Chats. My name is Sherri Davidoff. I'm the founder of LMG Security.
And I'm Matt Durrin, the Director of Training and Research at LMG Security.
And today we are going to talk about Retailgeddon. There has been a slew of security incidents that have hit retailers like Victoria's Secret, the North Face, Adidas, and others. And I think what's really interesting about this is that there has not been a slew of data breach announcements relating to payment card data, which is what happened the last time we saw Retailgeddon. In fact, this is really Retailgeddon Take 2. The first Retailgeddon happened in 2013 and 2014. Some of you may remember Target getting hacked.
Yeah.
I just have nightmares. Home Depot getting hacked, which really went a lot more smoothly. They seem to have cyber insurance.
Well, they responded a lot better.
They responded. You know, they were also well into Retailgeddon when retailers kind of had a process down.
True.
UPS got hacked, Sally Beauty got hacked, and like a zillion other retailers got hacked. And payment card breaches were like a big deal. And I'm proud of us, Matt. I'm proud of us as an industry.
Just as a society?
No, I don't know about society, but industry.
Sure.
Because we really figured out how to reduce the risk of payment card breaches.
Well, yeah, we stopped using payment cards and started moving to other systems.
Okay, we do actually use payment cards, but we've gotten a lot better at fraud monitoring, at shutting down the attackers, and that means that payment cards are not as valuable for criminals. And in fact, according to the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, which just came out recently, only 1% of data breaches involved stolen payment data.
That's impressive.
That's huge. It used to be one of the top causes of losses. And I keep thinking, like, it's hard. We don't hear a lot of good news in cybersecurity, but guys, we did it. We crushed payment card data breaches, and we can do it again with ransomware and other stuff.
True.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the rash of data breaches, or really cybersecurity incidents that relates to retailers, what the criminals are after today, how these have evolved in the past decade or so, and what we can learn from them.
Great.
So
let's get into it.
Let's dig in. I heard Victoria's Secret might have gotten hacked.
Victoria's Secret's not so secret anymore.
Okay, that was good.
I had to. I'm sorry. Victoria's Secret, they suffered a, at this point, unknown security incident. This happened back on May 24th.
Right.
They, as of May 26th, had taken their e-commerce platform and their online system down completely.
So they lost money.
They lost money. They actually lost 7% of their stock value too, which was not great.
Now's the time to buy.
Exactly. And I mean, they were down for 3 continuous days. And the interesting thing about this is we don't actually know what happened. I mean, a lot of news agencies are speculating because when you see somebody take their internal network down, usually that means ransomware.
I
there's a bunch out there.
When Honda got hacked, at first there was just like a disruption, and we were told like it's ransomware, and then like an article comes out, and guess what? It is ransomware.
Yeah,
we don't know though.
We
There's
don't know.
Speculation.
Yeah, just speculation, but it wouldn't surprise me if that comes out to be like they had a ransomware incident and they had to recover.
Right.
Which that's a quick recovery, good for them.
But there's another retailer that got hacked, and we know that was ransomware.
Yeah, so that was Ahold Delhaize, and I hope I'm saying that correctly.
I'm going to say good job.
Yeah, thank you.
You took a risk.
For those of you who don't know who they are, which a lot of people don't, they're a big conglomerate. They are actually a Dutch-owned company, but they have a big North American division, and they own a lot of grocery store chains like Food Lion and Food Giant and Stop and Shop. So names that you've probably heard before. Yeah,
so
we
they're
know
like
those
the parent company.
Yeah, they're kind of like as Cerberus is to like Albertsons and Safeway. They're the ones that own all those companies. They did suffer a ransomware attack, and it took their online systems completely down. Now, that may seem trivial if you're talking about online grocery orders, but the big part there was it took their pharmacy offline. And so people couldn't fill prescriptions, and I mean, that's a real risk to health and safety if you can't get medications that you really, really need, or if they have to be transferred off somewhere else. Like there's just a lot.
Change healthcare. Basically.
Yeah, very similar to that. Like with just a processor goes offline, and that causes serious issues for people.
So they announced in April, is that right?
Yeah.
That this was ransomware?
Yeah, the attack took place in November, and then they announced in April finally that it was ransomware and the data had been stolen.
Man, I often wonder, what are we going to find out in 6 months that's actually happening today?
Oh, who knows at this point?
You don't know until you chop the tree down what's going on with the tree rings, right?
True, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, according to Verizon, 44% of the breaches that they saw are related to ransomware. And that is up 37% year over year, which is huge.
Yeah, it is. And well, I mean, the big thing about it, too, is, I mean, attackers aren't just going after, I mean, they're going after data and they're going after, ransom as a whole, but The big thing that they've come to realize, and I think this is, on the heels of payment cards becoming less valuable, is operational disruption for a big company is a huge problem.
For any company.
Yeah, for any company.
Well, and it's not just retailers, because raise your hand if your company processes credit cards in any way. Raise your hand, you guys. Come on, this is time to stretch. Oh, that's most of you.
Yeah.
All kinds of organizations process credit cards that you might not think. Healthcare facilities, schools, all kinds of, our business processes credit cards.
Anyone that takes a payment, basically.
Anybody that takes a payment probably takes credit cards. I grew up in my grandpa's store, and we did not take credit cards the whole time until 2015, until my mom shut it down.
Oh, there you go.
And honestly, I think that might have hurt us as a business. If you're involved in commerce today, chances are pretty good you take credit cards. And criminals have realized that if they can interrupt that payment process, there is a potential for them to extort you. Even if they're not successful, they might try to interrupt that process. And then instead of stealing payment card numbers and trying to monetize them and getting shut down, which doesn't work so well these days,
Not really.
they can be like, hey, pay us $250,000 and we'll let your systems go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a big shift.
It is a big shift. And the big thing that we're seeing right now is, and why these weren't hugely publicized, data breaches or anything like that, is because the information that was stolen was not necessarily what most people would consider to be really sensitive data.
Right.
It is information that can be used as a conglomerated data set to really spearfish people, which we'll see that moving forward.
The bottom line with this is that criminals are focusing more and more on disruption. So make sure you are testing your incident response plan for disruption, that your cyber insurance policy is covering business interruption, and that you understand what that coverage is and how to activate it.
That's a big one.
And that you're tracking your losses so that you can get reimbursed. So that's huge. All right, so in addition to, so that's one big thing that's changed for retailers. Another big shift has been in how, what kinds of data criminals are targeting, and also the fact that they are targeting customer accounts, and the vendors are being held responsible. So
I think that's a good thing, though.
Oh, no. Well, we can talk about that later. But the North Face, what happened at the North Face is a great example where North Face announced that they were hacked recently. It was discovered, they weren't hacked, or were they? Customer accounts were hacked. And this was affecting a large number of customers. So this was discovered on April 23rd. And attackers used stolen credentials to access their customer accounts. And to your point, it wasn't like social security numbers, which honestly I don't think are that sensitive. That's a topic for another day.
That's fair.
It was names, addresses, order history, birthdays. But even if it doesn't seem super sensitive, all that stuff is useful for attackers.
Oh, yeah,
right?
no, it's completely useful. Think back to when Dell had their customer service system hacked not too long ago. If I know, a North Face customer, if I know your name, your address, your email, and what you bought, I can pose as customer service, or I can use that to create a really highly tailored phishing campaign against you specifically, knowing that information. And we all know that spear phishing is 45% more effective than regular phishing, just by adding in that personal information.
Just adds to that systemic risk. But okay, what I think is most interesting about this is that, 7-8 years ago, even kind of 5 years ago, organizations were not held responsible for customer accounts that got hacked. Yahoo is a great example where they had billions of customer accounts hacked, and nobody was like, well, they were kind of held responsible, but nobody was like, ooh, we need to check for email compromise and inventory what was in all those accounts. No. And typically you say, well, the customer should have picked a better password. That has changed. Snowflake. You want to remind us of Snowflake?
Snowflake. So the big data analytics company that a bunch of organizations like AT&T and others were using to ingest huge amounts of customer information. And they had really poor password practices, and they didn't require multi-factor authentication.
Well, it's not them. If they had those
they had them available.
Policies for their customers.
They made it available so you could secure those accounts, but they didn't make it a requirement.
They weren't requiring you, and they weren't requiring MFA. And guess what? Lots of organizations that use Snowflake got hacked. But in the headlines, it was Snowflake gets hacked. And so their stock took a dip, and I bought some stock, people. And knowing that it wasn't the platform that got hacked, their stock went right back up, and I have made money, you guys.
Good.
But the point is that, again, it wasn't a vulnerability in their platform. Customer accounts got hacked, but it was their name that was dragged through the mud. And where we first saw this change was...
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin's.
Okay, Dunkin's, sorry.
Well, Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
So in 2020, Dunkin's reached a settlement. This was big at the time. We were both like, whoa. Dunkin's reached a settlement with Letitia James and the state of New York. Because their customer accounts were getting hacked, and criminals were stealing their rewards money. In fact, I heard somebody was very irritated that his rewards got stolen.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this, Matt?
No, I don't. It was right before I was hurt. It hurt me.
hurting.
Like right before we were taking a trip to Boston where I could actually go to a Dunkin' and I had $17 worth of credit
Woo-woo.
and it got stolen.
What kind of password did you pick?
Not a very good one.
Oh my God. I mean, this is a you problem. Actually, it's also a Dunkin's problem.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, so, I mean, this was the first time that I could recall a regulatory body saying, you know what, Dunkin's, you could have figured this out. Because it was criminals attacking many customer accounts. So really, there could have been like monitoring and logging and shutting down of the attacks.
Sure.
And they could have educated customers.
They could have.
And they could have, I don't know, if the customer is educated, forced them to change their password. But instead, they ended up having to give you back your rewards, right? Did you get those back?
I did get those back.
Did you ever use them or did
No,
they
I still
expire?
haven't used them.
That is really sad. Do you still have them?
I still have them.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure it affects your customer loyalty. But, okay, you got to hear this, you guys. So, Attorney General James put out a press release, and here's what she said. For years, Dunkin' hid the truth and failed to protect the security of its customers who were left paying the bill. It's time to make amends and finally fill the holes in Dunkin's cybersecurity.
Wow.
Not only will customers be reimbursed for lost funds, but we are ensuring the company's dangerous brew of lax security and negligence comes to an end. So thanks, Letitia James.
Letitia James is hilarious.
So anyway, Dunkin's had to pay the state of New York $650,000 to settle this. That was kind of amazing.
That's pretty big.
All right, so we learned a lot from Dunkin's and from Snowflake and now from the North Face, which is that you need to protect against credential stuffing.
Yeah.
Do you think MFA is enough?
No.
MFA is not enough.
MFA is not enough.
I mean, minimum.
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
Use it.
Offer MFA
Yeah.
if you can require it. I mean, I think for IT admins, like in Snowflake, you can require it. I don't know that every Dunkin's customer is going to accept the MFA.
Well, I mean, with the Dunkin' app, you can use a passkey now. So.
Oh, see, look at them. You know what? They are really getting on the security bandwagon here after their giant fine. So anyway, but you can also monitor and protect customer-facing systems, whether it's accounts or APIs or things like that, because more and more we're seeing companies being held responsible for their customers' poor password practice, Matt.
I mean, if they would have made me use a better one, I would have.
I know you would have. That's the thing. That's true. You just got to make it. You got to make people do it. Okay, tell us about Cartier.
Oh, Cartier. So Cartier was another one of the retail giants that we've seen hacked recently, and their data loss was, again, not payment data. I mean, that was one thing that they made absolutely clear. This was not payment card data. And in fact, it wasn't even really that personal data. It was names, emails, the countries. But again,
Yawn.
like all of these data breaches that are getting out there, I can put these all into an AI engine, and I can create a data product on someone and know what their shopping habits are.
Yawn.
And, oh man, it's
true.
Yeah.
You could totally target people.
But I mean, I think we need to redefine, I think, what sensitive data actually means in cases like this, because despite the fact that this wasn't medical history or a social security number, which again we can talk about that some other time. I mean, this can still be sensitive in any number of ways.
You know what this reminds me of? DocuSign.
Yeah.
Because they got emails, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now customers can impersonate the Cartier brand and send emails to all their customers with phishing links where they steal their money.
Yeah.
And they can even be like, buy this thing.
And because Cartier is a high-end brand, I mean, that could be very profitable.
Could steal some real monies
they
and have
absolutely
some
could.
angry customers. So watch out. You really need to redefine what sensitive data means for you. And think about how do you respond when customer emails in particular get stolen. Last one, Adidas.
Poor Adidas.
How did Adidas get hacked?
Adidas got hacked through a third party. Does that remind you of anyone?
Target. Okay, tell us about Adidas, and then we'll go back in time.
Yeah, so Adidas had a customer database basically hacked through a third-party support provider. And again, the data that they lost was not incredibly sensitive by like the standard definition of the word. But I mean, one, it's a big black eye for Adidas.
They're in the news. We're talking about them.
Exactly.
That
We're
stinks
talking
for
about
Adidas.
And
although any attention is good attention, isn't that like the theory of the day?
I
don't think it's
not.
true.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
But again, it underscores a couple of things. One, that I mean, Adidas should have been controlling their third-party risk a little bit better. And two, your third parties are a risk. Like
there's only so much you can do, Matt.
That's true.
But there is stuff.
You can do.
Yeah. So yes, this reminds me of Target, who got hacked in 2013, December 2013. And they were really that very first retailer that got hacked in Retailgeddon.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway from that is that Target got hacked because of a third-party vendor, a tiny little third-party vendor,
like an HVAC vendor, right?
company.
Yeah.
And the criminals likely stole the password, got into their systems, wormed their way into the inside, stole millions and millions of card numbers, and then boom, Retailgeddon.
Yeah.
So what can we do? I thought it was interesting that according to Verizon, 30% of breaches involve a third party. And I'm sure that won't surprise you given how much we are relying on cloud providers and other third-party providers these days.
Yeah, a lot of interconnections to deal with.
And unlike Target, this is not an HVAC vendor. This was actually someone that provided IT services. And IT providers and technology providers are really not super scrutinized. They're not highly regulated, and yet they are the foundation of our infrastructure. There's definitely a lot more attention on them this year and last year, but there's still room to do a better job vetting your IT providers.
Well, and they're absolutely a target for cyber criminals too. I mean, if they have access to, I mean, if they can hack one MSP and hit 1,000 of their customers, they're going to. We've seen it happen before.
Oh, ransomware, nation state actors, you name it. So really the takeaway there is we need to be scrutinizing our third-party vendors. Lately, the big area of risk is use of AI. How are your third-party vendors using AI, incorporating it into their products? Can that lead to data breaches for you? Can it even lead to downtime for you, vulnerabilities, things like that? So, okay, all of these, again, affect everyone, not just retailers. So increasing reliance on those third parties and SaaS platforms affect everyone. We're seeing all of these issues playing out in healthcare, education, manufacturing, compliance, schools,
pretty much everywhere,
education, and others. So with that, what can we all learn from this? What are our key takeaways?
Well, I think we said it already, but I mean, first, we really do need to redefine what sensitive means.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just your name, address, and social security number. It could be your emails. It could be your purchase history. It can be access tokens, API keys. I mean, there's tons of information that a hacker could use against you if they get their hands on it.
Yeah, it's not just, honestly, credit cards are not as much of an issue anymore.
They're not.
Even though they're more commonly reported.
Well, even when we see them on, like, for sale on the dark web, they're getting so cheap to buy because
they can't be used
they
that
can't
much.
be used that much,
Yeah, totally. Scrutinize your third party and your SaaS access. You can't protect what you don't know is exposed. So make sure you're identifying where you're reliant.
Next, you really do need to monitor and protect any customer-facing systems that are out there. Even if you're providing the tools for someone to make themselves secure in that platform, like Dunkin' or like, well, North Face or anyone else, I mean, there may need to be a push where you actually require those things, especially for administrative level accounts. I mean, if there's something that can control an enterprise, distribution for an account, make sure that account is secure. And if you're using those systems and it's not required, I mean, you kind of have to take it upon yourself to use those security tools.
Yeah, or at least educate your customers and make sure things like MFA are available. That's the minimum.
Totally, yeah.
Lastly, make sure you're testing your incident response plan for downtime, understanding your cyber insurance coverage. Uptime is revenue these days, and people's lives can be impacted when things are taken down.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for tuning in to our talk about Retailgeddon. Coming back, my name is Sherri Davidoff.
I'm Matt Durrin.
And tune in next week for our next episode of Cyberside Chats.